Hey everybody, we're live and hope you're well. It's 3:06. I believe at 3:15 they're supposed to let me in to the meeting, the appearance really. Um, Arise is a network in London out specifically through Dan Warren to talk to me about Reedy Creek Improvement District and the state of Florida Legislature's decision to dissolve or think that they can dissolve basically um, a 55-year government organization. So, as those of you who followed my content know um, and have listened to my content for years, I've had more than a passing interest in Walt Disney World since I was 2 years old. So would I just say 2 years old? I saw two people watching this and I said 2 years old since I was 8 years old. And you would say, why? Well, I've always been interested in big urban planning. And I saw, and my mother bought me a big, thick cocktail book called The Art of Walt Disney by Christopher Jenks. And in it, at the back, was a chapter called The Lessons of the Parks. And it talked about not just how Disneyland was a model for architecture at the time, standard urban architecture, but more important to my evolution, my intellectual evolution, it focused on Disney World and how it was really a new city, a new state that was designed to tackle some, very deep urban problems and ills. But what was more interesting then and now is the amazing engineering effort and the cost of that effort that it took to develop Disney World. For example, Bay Lake, which you've probably seen if you've ever been to Disney World, and the Seven Seas Lagoon. Seven Seas Lagoon existed, but was man-made. But Bay Lake was a lake, but it had muck all at its bottom, and it was infested with alligators. Disney crews basically cleaned out the lake and then put new fresh water in it with fish. And on top of all of that, put white sand at the bottom. So when you go to Disney World to this day, it has white sand beaches. They weren't just there, they were put there. All of that was put there by us, people. And that alone is incredible. But then consider that the Seven Seas Lagoon was man-made and has its own wave-making machines. They have a complex system called the Utilidor under the Magic Kingdom, which connects much of the Magic Kingdom and the hotels. That's right. It really is a model for, that I was introduced to again in the Lessons of Parks. It's a model for urban development. Rather than having back, alleys or sewers, basically Disney World has its own basement. And so if you're dressed as a pirate and you are in, say, Tomorrowland, but because maybe the dressing rooms are there, but you need to be over the Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, even though you're I know it's automated, but just work with me here. But you need to be over the Pirates of the Caribbean. You can go underground rather than actually walking through the Magic Kingdom. It's its own world down there. If they need to fix pipes, they can go down to the basement, find the right pipe. They don't have to tear up the ground above ground. The Reedy Creek Improvement District, for those who would say, okay, well, that's built, they don't need to have it anymore. Actually, they've been maintaining it. Their budget alone last year was Their revenues were 168 million. Their expenses were 140 million. So they came out a surplus. Someone was reporting that that it didn't make money. It did make money. It did. Because and to understand that, all you have to do is look at the budget. The number of reporters who haven't read this, who represent organizations like the Associated Press, is disappointing. Is as disappointing as it is disturbing. So, yeah, I'm really excited that the group is having me on to talk about the Reedy Creek Improvement District. It's not a gay issue. I'm straight. Okay, that shouldn't matter. But it is an issue of the degree to which we do not understand. We don't understand our own governments and the systems that we developed. And it points to a downward slide in our own ability to understand our own society, let alone maintain it. This points to a gigantic intellectual and cognitive problem we have in the country. Some would say it points to the continued anti-intellectualism of American life that Richard Hofstadter pointed to in his famous book of the same title in 1956. But arguably, I believe now the degree to which we are anti-intellectual, not interested in thinking, not interested in absorbing new ideas, is increasing at a pace that is roughly in indirect proportion to our increase in technology and technological advances, and in particular, our use of the internet. You would say, what is the solution? I think the solution should be that we have mandatory attendance in school, mandatory attendance in college. We make college affordable, not just because of the degree, but because of the thinking that college is supposed to instill in you. I don't care I don't really care about your political stripe. I'm just talking about your ability to think and absorb different ideas and absorb complex ideas, let alone create them. Okay? Because we're going to need that kind of thinking in order to get us out of some of the technological messes we're going to be getting into in the future. I'm really concerned we do not have the ability to do that as much as we did even 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So this is a gigantic problem, folks. It really is. It's not a political issue. It's not a political issue. Excuse me for a second. Okay. So should be a matter of time. So the host will let you in soon. Here we go.
This is Arise America. Illegal bushmeat is on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. We've become a center for ivory and pangolin smuggling. So please report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat.
We're in, folks. Watch this.
And let's work together to win for Nigeria. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
We started our journey over 7
There it is,
years
folks.
ago, connecting travelers to their favorite
London.
destinations. Since then, we've revolutionized how we want our passengers to feel while flying. That is why we've introduced our brand new Embraer 195 E2 aircraft. We're on a mission to add new destinations to our ever-increasing fleet. Our Boeing 777 will take you on an international journey. Mumbai, Guangzhou, London, Johannesburg. And now, Epic is adding a new destination, Dubai.
If you're gonna fly, then you should fly with us on Air
Peace flies you from all our domestic routes to Dubai from Lagos at no additional cost.
From coast to coast, every culture, every day. This is Arise America.
Welcome back. You're watching Arise America. I'm Dan Warren. Now, the Florida House of Representatives has given final passage to a bill that would dissolve Walt Disney World's private government, handing Republicans a victory with the giant over its opposition to a measure that critics have dubbed the Don't Say Gay law. Now, the move could have huge tax implications for Disney, whose series of theme parks have transformed Orlando into one of the world's most popular tourist destinations, and serves to further sour the relationship between the Republican-led government and a major political player in the state. For DeSantis, the attack on Disney is his latest salvo in a culture war waged over policies involving race, gender, and the coronavirus battles that have made him one of the most popular GOP politicians in the country and a likely 2024 presidential candidate. Well, for more on this story, let's cross now live to Oakland in California, where we are joined by Zennie Abraham, the CEO of the US digital news organization Zennie 62 Media. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon or this evening here in Nigeria. I mean, why has the Florida government gone and done this?
Well, first of all, I want to say I've had a history with this project since I was 8 years old and was familiar with the Reedy Creek Improvement District then. I'll be 60 this year. But the government did it because Governor Ron DeSantis wanted to show Disney that basically it had to pay politicians their cut. And Disney, this all came about because Disney openly opposed the Don't Say Gay law, as you know. But what people need to understand is this is not an LGBTQ issue. It's really an issue of our society today, particularly in America, not understanding complex legislation and therefore the consequences of, if you will, messing with it, or someone would say messing with the mouse, but it's really even more complicated than that.
It seems very strange because, as you said, that you've known it since you were 8. I mean, this was when Walt Disney himself, when he was still, on this planet and planning the Walt Disney World project, as he was calling it back in those days. It was negotiated back then because basically Orlando was pretty much swampland, which is hard to believe when you look at the giant theme park capital of the world it is now. It would make more sense if this was a policy that the party had been campaigning for, to say, I think that we should bring Florida's taxation in, all companies should have treat tax in the same way and all be treated the same way. But this has just suddenly come out of the blue, hasn't it?
Well, if I understand your question, the main problem is that even if it were to bring companies in line, it would mean that people didn't read the legislation. Walt Disney World already pays taxes to Orange and Ocala counties. That's in the legislation. The legislation also said it's supposed to, Reedy Creek Improvement District was designed to do this because Associated Press said, oh, it was Epcot. It wasn't. Very quickly, it was designed because, as you point out, the land, the 27,443 acres, 43 square miles, was not only mostly swampland, it was under water table 3/4 of the year. The trick was, how do you get it to be 1/4 under water table and therefore the rest of the land developable all year round? So that gigantic network of creeks and rivers and lakes like Bay Lake, which was, had muck at it and now has white sand at it, was all needed to be done. Disney couldn't afford it, but a state government which is really what the Reedy Creek Improvement District is, could do so by floating bonds. And so that's how you did it. It was really about creating the giant mechanism to actually build Walt Disney World as it is today, with its 2 cities and its, all the rest. It's really an incredible accomplishment. It really is.
And obviously now it's left for Ron DeSantis, the governor, to sign the bill, which he's likely to do because he's the one that basically told lawmakers to vote for it. I mean, once it's signed, what problems will this cause for Disney itself?
None, because first of all, the residents have to vote on it, and the residents will vote no. And most of them are Disney employees, so it's not a done deal. And again, you can't just sign something away with the stroke of a pen of that structure. And again, that's what goes back to my initial point. We're at a place in society where we've been affected by the internet, and people don't read things anymore, like legislation. All they have to do is read the legislation. That's it. DeSantis didn't do that.
Interesting. So, because that's like even on the reports that we're seeing on a lot of US media and various websites, it doesn't actually say that residents get to vote for this. And as you say, most of them are Disney employees. In fact, Disney employ one of the biggest, if not the biggest employer in the state of Florida. And in fact, there's more people that are being transferred from California, from Disney's California complex to Florida later this year. Even more people. Is this really just a PR exercise then, and to show off somebody's got some muscle to help with the potential presidential bid in a couple of years?
Yeah, but it's going to turn it out as to fall on his face. Why? Because already Fitch Ratings has put a warning of downgrading on the Reedy Creek Improvement District bonds. Not that that's going to remain, but that's under the idea that Orange and Australia counties, which already have their own fiscal problems, may take them over. And oh, by the way, we're looking at a possible recession coming up in the near future, right? So it's going to make the governor look as stupid as the decision was. I'm saying that bluntly and blankly. Folks, understand your governments, read your legislation. I don't care if your eyes bleed. Know what's going on, because a lot of people don't. That's the real problem.
Indeed.
Oh, and by the way, can I make one more point? If they did that because of the downgrade, if it's taken over, the downgrade takes effect. If Disney keeps it, the downgrade goes away. All right. But if the counties were to take over, they would have to pay more on the debt service of the bond issue, which already was $27 million last year and $42 million the year before that. So they're going to pay more than that. So again, it's just ridiculously stupid.
People say that if the special status was removed, park visitors and Florida residents would certainly be paying the price for this.
They would pay the price. The Florida residents would pay the price because the counties would have to pay on the debt service of the bond issue. And again, Orange County, to name one example, just got out of trouble with the ratings agencies. The Disney organization in Reedy Creek has a 55-year history with the bond markets. And you can't just toss that away with a stroke of a pen and think that the people who bought those bonds are not going to raise hell. Disney could take this all the way to the Supreme Court if it wanted to. I don't think anything's going to be done because, again, as they try to get into this, unravel it, they're going to appreciate exactly what the Disney organization really did in the 60s. They built a city-state.
Well, Zennie, we're going to have to sadly leave it there because we've run out of time, but thank you so much indeed for actually explaining it, because it's certainly completely different than a lot of other platforms.
Can I say real quick? Epcot had nothing to do with Reedy Creek. They made Reedy Creek to build the network of tributaries to clear the land. That was the idea. The Associated Press got it wrong. There are a lot of people who just don't care to get it right. And that, again, points to the overall problem of anti-intellectualism in American life.
Indeed, we'll leave it there, but thank you so much indeed for joining us this afternoon. Well, let's stay in Florida, and members of the Florida Legislative Black Caucus have held a news conference earlier to speak out against a new congressional map approved by Florida's legislator yesterday. The map was pushed by the Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, over the strong objections of Black and Democratic lawmakers who say it will diminish the state's Black representation in the U.S. House and benefit Republicans DeSantis took the unusual step of vetoing the map drawn by the legislature earlier this year and proposing his own, calling lawmakers back into the special session to approve it. Democrats say the map strongly favors the GOP and dismantles two traditionally black districts.
The stakes are high, and we have one chance every 10 years to get this right. This year is that chance, and Democrats came into the process with one goal in mind: to draw free and fair maps for all people in Florida, not just some. A free and fair map was not what we were forced to accept up there in Tallahassee this week. It was a blatant attempt to rig districts to favor the Republican Party and to systematically disenfranchise Black voters and their voices in Congress.
What you have seen from the governor has been thug-like behavior. He is clearly violating the law. Our jobs as legislators and his job as the governor is to uphold the law. But he is intentionally breaking the law. He's breaking federal law, and he's breaking our own state constitution.
You're watching Arise America. Still ahead, the UN Human Rights Office is concerned about the current new phase of the war in Ukraine. Do stay with us.
Every culture, every angle. This is Arise America.
Here's a card when no go give you stress at all. Zero weight to zero Q. Fast banking petrol card. Here's a card when no go give you wahala. Zero trouble now for you. Fast banking petrol card. Tell off the spoiler. Who won't break down? When you want to say now you get up. Nothing fit to one. Sharp, women are the way. Swipe they go, you know the way. Virtual cardi with the sweet body. Virtual card with no the shameless. Put you first again. First banking, virtual card will put you first again. Generate your virtual card will put you first again. First banking, virtual card will put you first again. Just generate your virtual card.
From coast to coast, every culture, every angle. This is Arise America.
Welcome back. You're watching Arise America. I'm Dan Warren. Now, the United States' Deputy Secretary of State, Wendy Sherman, has warned of severe consequences should Russian President Vladimir Putin use nuclear weapons in its war with Ukraine. Speaking in Brussels at a joint news conference with Stefano Sania, the European External Action Service Secretary General, Sherman rejected the idea that the United States had not sent troops into Ukraine because of the threat of nuclear arsenal.
The United States and our allies and partners have not sent troops themselves into Ukraine, not because of the nuclear arsenal, but because what we believe is most useful is for us to support Ukraine to defend itself, to provide them with the security assistance they need. And so far, the United States alone has provided $4 billion in security assistance. European Union countries have similarly done an extraordinary job, and countries all over the world have changed their rules, their laws to provide security assistance to Ukraine as well. The President of the United States has said that if there is any any attempt to take any NATO territory, our troops will be there as part of NATO in a nanosecond. Nonetheless, I quite agree with you about the seriousness of any country who might decide that there is such a thing as
All right, folks, that is it. And it was a great and fun program. Nigeria is where the focus was, but they say they also Rise America. It's a really interesting network. And I tweeted it out and attached them on Twitter. So let's find out more about them. They reached out to me out of the blue, and I didn't have enough time to really just stop and research, but not that I needed to. But so let's see what's going on with take a look at my profile here. Oakland News Online. Rise. Let's see here. Looking through. There it is. Arise TV. Global news and entertainment, every culture, every angle. London, New York, Johannesburg, Laos. Wow. 324,100 Twitter followers. The pinned tweet. I'm going to actually retweet this and say thanks. Thanks. Also on, and then I'm going to, on Zennie62 YouTube, on Reedy Creek Improvement District. There. And so fun stuff. I don't know what the comments were. Let's see here. There's no subsidy. Our economy do better. That was April 18th. And something that they're responding to. I see they have this window set up where they broadcast all, and I'll show you what I'm talking about so you can see what I'm talking about. They have this window set up right here where they broadcast all of their segments on through Twitter, among other places. Okay, so see that? So those questions were placed on there from the 18th, and they see that's mine, where it says thanks. Also on Zennie62 on YouTube, on Reedy Creek, Reedy Creek Improvement District, and that is actually going on right now. Okay, that's actually going on right now. So that's their news feed, and then this is their Twitter account, where it reads global news, entertainment, every culture, every angle. Joined January 2013. Go to the website here. It says, let me get that here and then put over there. There's the website. Yeah, it says, see, it has the streamcast there too. So, wow. Okay. It has the global business report and 19 updates, politics. Nigeria's military not doing enough to end insecurity, despite logistics provided. It's really cool. And ACTB sets presidential forum. The global business report is there. Politics. Nigeria at close of nomination. Over 15 million passengers passed through Nigeria's airports in 2021. Huh. Johnny Depp, Will Smith apologizes. We know about that, right? And yeah. Now, in terms of who, or just who they are, let's just get you back home. There's the fellow that interviewed me. And let's see here. About Us. There we go. About Us says, let's see. Available on Sky 519. It says part of the Rise Media Group. So let's copy paste that and see what that gets us here. And it says the mission of Rise Media is to produce, inspire, inspirational, educational, impactful, and it's dedicated to creating films and educational media about the most pressing environmental and social challenges facing our world. Is that it? It doesn't sound like it. Let's see here. It's Rise Media. And it says, let's see, now playing. I think it's different than Rise Media. There's Rise Media. Then there's Rise News, the global channel. And here's a Rise Media Group LinkedIn. Ah, here it is. This will help. This is on Wikipedia. Okay. This says Rise News is a London-based world news channel transmitted free to air from the SCS Atra 2G satellite. East gives the transponder and all that stuff. Available on Sky PG at channel 519 in the UK and Ireland. Free to air from HipSat as well. And it has studios in New York, London, Johannesburg, Abuja, and Laos. The channel features African, US, and European content. It is operated by Rise Broadcasting Limited, which is owned by Nigerian media mogul Nduka Obobinga. As of October 2017, Rise News is available on channel 416 in Nigeria. As of June 2020, it can be found streaming on Freeview via its own service on channel 269 as part of the Vision TV lineup. Arise also runs a second channel on Vision TV called Live 360, more focused on entertainment with fashion. And then in February of this year, it rebranded Live 360 as Arise Play, the same name as the company's Nigerian streaming platform. The Rise Play service was launched in 2021 and has a number of titles from BBC Studios in its catalog. Let's find out more about this gentleman. He was born 14 July 1959. He is a Duke of Owa Kingdom, the founding chairman and editor-in-chief of This Day Media Group and Arise News Channel. He was born in Ibadan, Southwest Nigeria on 14 July 1959, and into the royal family of Owa Kingdom, Delta State. He attended Udo College, Benin City, and University of Benin. He attended the Graduate School of Business at the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, and an advanced management program at the University of Cape Town. He founded a Nigerian newspaper in 1995 and launched International TV News Channel. And he, let's see here. And a Bachelor Boards and Committees this day. He has cultural initiatives. There's the usual stuff that I don't want to get into because someone writes negative stuff on Wikipedia and it's not always, true, and it gives always part of rather than the whole description of what happened. So I don't get into that stuff. Now, let's find out more. Let's do this. There he is. He's Duke, editor-chief of Rise News. And he was at the World Economic Forum. Journalist, satirist, and writer. English speaking. He's on LinkedIn. And let's see here. And he's fighting a ban running his company. His company's still going. I mean, so what? So what? He acquired a brand new private jet last year. Woohoo! Well, he's doing something. Okay. $2 million acquisition. And here is his photograph being interviewed by I don't know who Dr. Damages is. But good for him. I mean, it looks like he's really made himself into a media presence in Nigeria that's touching the world. I'm, really delighted to be a part of it. I mean, as a guest talking about this issue, right? About the matter of Reedy Creek Improvement District. So there it is, though. I thought it was interesting that the gentleman said, "Oh, this is a perspective you don't normally hear on media." You don't. But look, folks, all you have to do to understand what's going on with Reedy Creek right now is read, and then Reedy Creek Improvement District News, okay? And then you type budget. All right. And or bond issue, bonds. And this is where you learn about what happened with respect to the news regarding its downgrade or potential on Google News, all right? And specifically Fitch ratings. This was 3 hours ago. I saw this 3 hours ago. Fitch places Reedy Creek Improvement District's Florida utility and ad valorem ratings on negative watch. It doesn't mean they have went negative, but they're on watch. And this is Rating Actions commentary. It says, Fitch Ratings out of New York has placed the following Reedy Creek Improvement District, Florida, RCID ratings on ratings watch negative. Approximately $79 million outstanding utilities revenue and refunding bonds at A. Utility standalone credit profile at A. Approximately $766 million outstanding ad valorem tax bonds. District issuers default rating at AA negative. The negative watch indicates the ratings could stay at their present levels or potentially be downgraded. The negative watch reflects the passage of a bill. Okay, listen to this. The negative watch reflects, and this is what I was trying to tell everybody. The negative watch reflects the passage of a bill by the Florida Senate and House of Representatives that will result in the dissolution of independent special districts created prior to 1968, including the Reedy Creek Improvement District, effective June 1, 2023. If signed into law by the governor, such districts affected by the dissolution may be re-ratified on or after the dissolution date. Yeah. Security. The utility bonds are secured by a first lien on net revenues of the district's combined utility system after payment of operations and maintenance costs and a fully funded debt service reserve fund. The ad valorem bonds are backed by the district's covenant to levy each year an ad valorem tax not to exceed $30 million on all taxable property within the district sufficient to pay debt service on the bonds. Key ratings drivers. Dissolution. Bill heightens uncertainty. The negative watch reflects the lack of clarity regarding the allocation of the Reedy Creek Improvement District's assets and liabilities, including the administration of revenues pledged to approximately $1 billion in outstanding debt, following the dissolution of the Reedy Creek Improvement District or its re-ratification on or after June 1st, 2023. Fitch expects the title of all property owned by Reedy Creek Improvement District, including its indebtedness, to be transferred to Orange County and, to a lesser extent, Ocala County, or to a successor agency as prescribed under Florida law. Fitch believes the mechanics of implementation will be complicated, increasing the probability of negative ratings action. ESG, governance structure. Reedy Creek Improvement District, Florida Utilities has an ESG relevance score of 5 for governance structure, revised from 4 to reflect state actions to dissolve the district, which has given rise to risk regarding administration of revenue pledged to utility bond holders, potentially impinging on creditors' rights, which has a negative impact on the credit profile and is highly relevant to the negative watch action. Folks, this would spell a court action, okay? Disney could sue the state of Florida on this basis, okay? And the counties could arguably jump in and say, hey, look, we don't want this. We don't want this burden. That's exactly what it is. It gets better. ESG, rule of law, institutional and regulatory quality, control of corruption. Reedy Creek Improvement District general government has an ESG relevance score of 5 for rule of law, institutional and regulatory quality, control of corruption, revised from 3. Wow. They went from a 3 to a 5 to reflect state actions to dissolve the district, which points to a substantially reduced degree of independence from political pressure. These actions potentially diminish government effectiveness and could prove harmful to bondholders, which has a negative impact on the credit profile and is highly relevant to the negative watch action. Rating sensitivities, factors that could individually or collectively lead to positive ratings action or upgrade. Fitch will remove the ratings from negative watch if the dissolution bill is not signed into law. Okay? If the dissolution bill is not signed into law. Fitch will remove the ratings from negative watch if the transfer of assets and liabilities or dissolution plan preserves the credit quality and payment capacity of the respective revenue streams pledged to bondholders. Factors that could individually or collectively lead to negative ratings action or downgrade. Prolonged uncertainty with respect to the implementation of the transfer of assets or liabilities and or dissolution provisions that impair the capacity for debt repayment from the respective pledged revenue streams. Best worst case rating scenario. International scale credit ratings of sovereigns, public finance, and infrastructure issuers have a best case rating of upgrade scenario, which is identified as the 99th percentile of ratings transactions measured in a positive direction of 3 notches over a 3-year rating horizon, and a worst case rating downgrade scenario identified as a 99th percentile of ratings transactions measured in a negative direction of 3 notches over 3 years. The complete span of best and worst case scenario credit ratings for all ratings categories ranges from AAA to D. Best and worst case scenario credit ratings are based on historical performance. For more information about the methodology used to determine sector-specific best and worst case scenario credit ratings, visit the Fitch ratings there. Credit profile. Reedy Creek covers covers 43 square miles in central Florida, Orange and Ocala counties, about 15 miles southwest of Orlando. The district was created in 1967 by a special act of the Florida Legislature in anticipation and support of the development of the Disney World Resort. The legislation granted the district governmental powers to promote recreation-oriented projects, economic development, and tourism objectives as the legislature determined served a valid public purpose, as well as provide all utility services to businesses in the district. The Reedy Creek Improvement District is governed by a 5-member board of supervisors elected by the landowners in the district, and I might add, meet next Wednesday. The Walt Disney Company is the majority landholder within the district, and the Reedy Creek Improvement District principal source of operating revenue generated from the levy of an ad valorem property tax on Disney-owned properties, including its theme parks, Disney Springs, and the ESPN Wild World of Sports complex. References for substantially material source cited as key driver rating. The principal sources of information used in the analysis are described in the applicable criteria. The other considerations, ESG, is that it has a score of 5 for governance structure, revised from 4 because of the state actions, and again, potentially impinging on creditors' rights, having a negative impact on the credit profile, highly relevant to the negative watch action that could come. Reedy Creek Improvement District, Florida General Government has an ESG relevant score of 5 for rule of law, institutional and regulatory quality, control of corruption, revised from 3. These are essentially repeats of, what I've said to you. Okay, so there we go. Right now, the ratings are AA negative, and A but the ratings watch is on in all cases. Okay, so there you are. The appropriate disclaimers there. So that's it, folks. Fitch has laid down the hammer. Basically, what this is saying is it's very simple. If Governor DeSantis signs that damn bill into law, immediately credit downgrading starts. Immediately, the credit downgrade rating starts. I don't know why I keep saying stops. Again, if Governor DeSantis signs the bill into law, Fitch and other rating agencies will downgrade the Reedy Creek Improvement District bonds. And what that means to the taxpayer in both counties means that they get a higher bill on the budget of the county and therefore on their backs than the Reedy Creek Improvement District has right now. That's what it means. That's ridiculous. And all for something that is a free speech matter to begin with. So just what the lawsuit options for Disney are, that's a good question. I think would form a great show. Subscribe to Zennie62 and bookmark localnewsnow.com. That ends this broadcast.